G'day gamers, I'm Writ in Water and welcome to Writ Reviews. It Came From Space and Ate Our Brains is an arcade top-down shooter of the twin-stick variety developed by Triangle Studios and released on Steam in 2015. The game has an overall Steam rating of very positive, with reviewers often praising its fluid gameplay, tight controls, variety of weapons and the co-op mode, both local split-screen and online. You play as Jerry, a regular guy who somehow managed to survive an alien invasion while the rest of the human race have apparently had their brains eaten. With little chance of survival and nothing left to live for anyway, Jerry decides he will go out in a blaze of bullets and explosions, taking as many of the invading alien scum with him as he can. If he can't defeat the aliens, he may at least set a new high score. The game begins with Jerry dumped in an ominously dark level with just a flashlight to guide him and a puny pistol to fend off the pending hordes of glowing aliens, all eager to feast on his pulsing, fleshy brain. Once the timer has counted down, the first wave begin their attack. Killing aliens increases both your score and your coin tally, the latter of which can be used to buy new weapons, power-ups and upgrades. Once you acquire enough coin, a message will flash on the screen to indicate that a new weapon or power-up is available to purchase from the shop, which can be accessed with the press of a button at any time. The purchasable weapons and upgrades become available gradually to match the growing difficulty of the incoming enemies. This presents the player with tactical options to suit their playstyle. Do they spend their coin on upgrading their pistol to maximum, or hold out to purchase more powerful base weapons such as the shotgun? Or perhaps even hold out for something a little more explosive, a rocket launcher perhaps? Power-ups may be dropped randomly around the level as time passes, and these can be collected to be used when the player feels appropriate, to increase defences, replenish health, or provide a temporary boost to firepower. As the game progresses and each wave of ever more powerful aliens are destroyed, the player will eventually face the final wave and the final boss, whose defeat signals the ending of that level. With the level completed, you are presented with a summary of your performance, such as kills, deaths, and favourite weapon, along with your score and the option to proceed to the next level, where the action starts over again in a new setting. Graphically, the game is of the 3D block style, so common amongst modern indie games, but the colour palette used and the fluid animations provide for a fairly unique and pleasing aesthetic. I did at times, however, find that during particularly frantic moments of action, the screen had a tendency to blur into an indistinct light show of fluoro colours and flashes, causing the player character to be difficult to spot in amongst the mayhem. I must also admit it took me a while to learn what each power-up was, as the only differentiating feature of them in the game world is their colour, as they are all represented by identical floating cubes. The sound effects, although fairly rudimentary, are sufficient for this style of game, while the music is very much suited to the atmosphere, with a rocking techno track just dark enough to fit in with the eerie environment. Control is simple and effective, as should be expected by now for this kind of top-down shooting genre, using the tried and true twin-stick method, with player movement being controlled with the left controller stick or the keyboard, and aiming being accomplished with the right stick or the mouse. I had no issue with this control method, though I will point out that it took me some time to realise that I had to press a button to use the power-up I was apparently carrying, as this wasn't made clear in the game. With all the action happening on screen, I was initially under the impression that walking over the power-up was enough to activate it. Gameplay is fun and addictive, as is so common with these kinds of games. I found the weapon upgrades were made available at just the right intervals to relieve the onset of boredom, which for all but the most hardcore fan of the genre becomes inevitable in these repetitious score-chasing games. The boredom, however, does eventually set in. For me it was after around an hour's play, which is probably more time than I would give most games of its ilk. After playing for a while, I discovered, on medium difficulty at least, that I could just pick a strategically advantageous spot, which is pretty much any location where the enemies are funneled into a group in order to reach you, and camp there, picking off the oncoming aliens one by one as they got within range. This quickly results in a tedious gaming experience. Of course, there is nothing making you play this way. If you want to gain the most enjoyment from the game, simply avoid doing this. Overall, I found the game to be above average for this genre. Initially it was fun and quite addictive, being able to instantly compare your score on a leaderboard of your friends or against the whole world adds some incentive for one more go. Unless you are a score-chasing fanatic, however, the eventual onset of boredom is inevitable, especially with the lack of variety in scenery. But the multiplayer aspect, particularly local co-op, make the game a good choice to break out every now and then for a quick round with some friends. I should mention at this point that others have spoken of unusual lag in multiplayer, though I personally didn't experience this during my short time playing online. This is one of those games you may just pick up every couple months for a little play, maybe while you're waiting for a video to render or a file to download. But just keep an eye on the time, as you may find yourself ever so slightly addicted. I'll give it 7 empty brain cases out of 10. Thanks for watching.